Being at the top of the food chain takes years of work, dedication, persistence, endurance, and above all else, knowledge. Knowledge is the key to assessing your inner self and projecting it onto the world. It is the adhesive to all your other qualities and requirements. And knowledge isn't something you're born with. Knowledge is acquired through experience, observation, and best of all, through reading, which gives you a perspective through the eyes of those who are packed with knowledge. Today, we'll delve deep into the 5 of the most important books that will turn you into the smartest man. Number 5. 48 Laws of Power. Let's get the cliché answer out of the way. 48 Laws of Power, written by Robert Greene, might be one of the most overused and over-recommended books for self-improvement and increase of knowledge. However, that doesn't make it one bit less valuable. This controversial masterpiece will guide you step by step to how to become the leader through and through, how to become the absolute top of the game. It will give you a detailed explanation of the human psyche, as well as let you discover the darkest and brightest corners of yourself and how to utilize them properly. In addition to that, you will also be able to recognize human behavior, patterns, and holes in their presentation, and understand the importance of remaining constantly reserved in your own preservation. In addition to that, this book will give you an insight into what drives our social needs, as well as how to retain your reputation, how to catch attention, and how to become alluring and attractive to others. Expect nothing less than a no-biased window into our true animalistic nature that will allow you to deconstruct anyone and everyone, understand how they work, and use that to your advantage. Manipulate, strategize, or ignore them. Once you read this, the only limitations you'll have are the bounds created by your own morality. However, as good as this book is, the thing is that it will only give you insights into the various segments of improvement. You will need to explore them a lot before you can master them. Imagine it as more of a guide through controlling yourself and understanding other people's emotions more than anything else. Other books on our list are far deeper and far more focused than this one. Number 4. The Prince. There is a lot that needs to be said about Machiavelli, but one thing is for certain. He is, undoubtedly, one of the greatest minds that has ever grasped the world. Sure, Machiavellianism does undoubtedly garner quite a bit of negativity around it, mostly because of that infamous "the ends justify the means" quote. But let's be truthful here. Is that so wrong to think? In a world of chaos, misuse, and malpractice, is it really wrong to be pragmatic and look out for yourself and work for yourself? After all, isn't that what all the rich people are doing? The thing is, Machiavelli neatly predicted this more than 500 years ago as a gift to Lorenzo de' Medici, the patron of the Medici family that ruled Florence in the early 16th century. Machiavelli, who was, at the time exiled from his political office, wanted to gain favor within the Medici family, especially Lorenzo, and this notion was manifest in the book itself. In this masterpiece of a work, Niccolo provides guidance for a ruler on how to maintain control over a state, and argues that stability and power simply require a periodical sacrifice in the form of moral ambiguity. The book has garnered not just a following since then, but a cult in itself, and it has been one of the most important pieces of writing ever to be made when it comes down to the psychology and philosophy of who humans are underneath it all. Although it didn't bring about the reconciliation with the Medicis to Machiavelli, it surely brought an all-new manifested perspective to common people on how to acquire and retain power. Number 3. The Art of War. China has always been one of the cradles of knowledge and pillars of modern society, and we rarely give it credit for how important it was. The ancient Chinese had a very intensely developed sense of philosophy and intellect, and relied heavily on them in a time when brute force was one of the only options for acquiring power. The case and point of this is Sun Tzu's Art of War, written around the 5th century BCE, during China's Warring States period. This book outright vilifies brute force in favor of strategy and insists on effectiveness, sharpness instead of bluntness, and goes in depth on why these skills should be so highly valued without over-explaining itself. One of the key elements of the Art of War is the fact that, unlike many military texts, especially those that came up until a few centuries ago, it emphasizes outthinking the opponent as the key strategy to winning a conflict. In Tzu's opinion, maneuvering and deception are the ideal ways to achieve victory most effectively, without unnecessary waste, confrontation, and with maximum time economy. It also focuses heavily on self-awareness and deep analysis. which are probably the two most important skills needed for decision-making. The book is highly metaphorical and still very easy to understand, and reading it would, apart, give you valuable information on how to increase your strategic capabilities and allow yourself to elevate as high as possible with as little as unnecessary effort as possible. As Su himself said, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. Number 2. Atomic habits. In a world that relies heavily on bad habits that keep the lot of us on the bottom, it might be a refreshing change to read through valuable information that will lead us to abandon our parasitic traditions in favor of something that's far more beneficial for us. Atomic Habits by James Clear provides just that, a concise, direct, and no-nonsense approach to shedding your bad habits like a snake's skin. In essence, Atomic Habits rely on the idea that small habits, which are compounded over time, lead to profound and drastic improvements. The book argues that people tend to focus on making violent, core changes to their life, get much more easily discouraged due to how drastic their changes are. On the other hand, Clear argues that creating smaller, unnoticeable habits tends to be much more important, as you won't even notice their build-up, but will notice a drastic change over a prolonged period of time and building up a series of habits. Also, it relies on a 4-step process of creating a successful loop for creating a habit. 1. Cue, a trigger that initiates the habit. 2. Craving. 3. Response. 4. Reward. Once you understand and get a hang of the habit loop, you will be able to intervene at various stages to either strengthen or break a habit. And the thing is, habits need to both be obvious to the eye, but also creep up to your subconsciousness. This book is by far one of the most important books for curing the biggest illness of modern society: laziness. Number 1. The Count of Monte Cristo. We need to get something out of the way. The Count of Monte Cristo isn't a book that is designed to change you to your core. Or to be more precise, it isn't obvious at that. This 1,000-word story is a fantastically interesting read that will transport you to the 19th century and show you the most compelling revenge story out of all the revenge stories you have ever seen or heard of. However, through it, it will also lead you through a character transformation of Edmond Dantes, which is even more amusing to imagine and think about than the book itself. This transformation from one person through another just because he's in a state of despair, and the way it is handled is so thinly and perfectly woven that you can't help but feel enlightened after reading it. The book utilizes everything we've established to create the perfect character: strategy, calmness, resourcefulness, and knowledge, all in one. And, as such, it serves as a perfect model for you to see and learn from, and understand that to acquire knowledge and acquire any goal in your life, the only thing that you require above all else is patience. It's a must-read, as, unlike all other books on this list, which exist for knowledge and knowledge exclusively, The Count of Monte Cristo remains one of the most insightful and entertaining reads for those who seek self-improvement.